we'll move on to item number 4.1, which is presentation of the Wind and Water Sports Park. Christina.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Christina Baburka, Shoreline Director. Okay, so here's an update on the Wind and Water Sport venue. Just brief, real quick, where the project's at, located just north of the shores, right here in this black area. Real quick note, city limits actually extends further north. This is an outdated picture, but wanted to show you the general area of this, where this project is going to take place. So this project was one of the venue tax projects voted on in 2016 by the community. A joint evaluation meeting with all federal agencies took place in 2018 to discuss the plans, what the idea of the project was, to get initial feedback so that could go into the design. Hansen Professional Services was procured in 2020 early 2020 for the design and engineering of the project. All throughout 2020, meetings were held between city staff, Hansen, Army Corps of Engineers, for the design and the layout of the project, and the plans were finalized in early 2021. Those plans are right here. These are the original plans where you had a driveway where a gate would be a keypad. A permeable road goes out. There was 3 parking lots in this upland area here, and the road went out closer to the water. The furthest parking lot out there was concentrated on an upland area out there with a laydown area and access matting. Here's the same overlay over the habitat types, so just showing you what kind of habitats we're dealing with, the wetlands out there. You have your marsh, your tidal flats, your tidal pools, the location was selected to really try to avoid impacting as little of the wetlands as we can go. So going into the timeline, and I'll get to where we're currently at. October 2020, the original draft biological assessment was submitted to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. In November 2020, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service provided comments on the biological assessment, and we held a meeting with them to discuss what their issues and concerns were going to be so that we can incorporate that into the design and the biological assessment. They fixed it. Hansen fixed up the biological assessment based on those, and a second draft was submitted to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers in December 2020. In May 2021 is when we had received comments and revisions from the Army Corps of Engineers on that second draft. Hansen took those comments, revised our biological assessment, and sent in a third draft to the Army Corps in June 2021. In July 2021, the Army Corps had advised that additional revisions will be required and that those revisions will be submitted by the Army Corps of Engineers to Hansen in batches for an expedited review process. In September 2021, the Army Corps provided comments on the third biological assessment draft, and then a revised fourth draft was submitted in November 2021 by Hansen to the Army Corps of Engineers. In December 2021, in the internal review, Army Corps comments submitted to our Army Corps, so other staff in the Army Corps submitted to our project manager at the Corps that they had some comments on the plans. That same month, we also contacted our senator's office to get some help with moving this project forward. In January 2022 of this year, internal Army Corps comments that were submitted in December were then forwarded to Hansen. So it took a month for them to just submit those comments that we had so that we could get working on the revised plan. So more recent updates in January. We had a bunch of meetings between city staff, Hansen, and our U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the project manager, as well as the district's regulatory lead. A fifth biological assessment revision was submitted to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. In February, we had got a notice from our project manager at the Corps that the redesign was on the right track, and mitigation will be required, so we've been working on those. Big changes to the plans, not big, but changes to the plans include reduced size to parking lot A, And then changes to parking lot B and C. They removed D and combined that into C, and I'll show that in the next couple slides. Hanson submitted an alternative analysis to the city, which went through all the different variations that could be possible to show that this modified version of the plans is the best one for plans, the plans as a whole, as well as what the Army Corps is willing to accept. In March, the Army Corps requested more details on the modified plans. That's the reduced parking lot A plans. Additional meetings have been held with the city, Hanson, and the Corps, as well as the property owners. We've been in contact with them a lot since we are leasing this land. Our colonel for the entire Galveston district of the Army Corps, we've brought him on so we can update him on what's going on so we can try to get this moving as quickly as we possibly can. Hanson was working on the amended revision of the biological assessment, which will be our 6th draft. And then most recently in April, we've had additional meetings between city staff, Hanson, and the property owners. Real quick, here's the modified version that we've kind of been working with, where the parking lot has been turned so it could be as concise and on top of those uplands in that area as much as possible, as well as reduce parking back here. So our next steps at this point is to continue working with the engineers as well as the Army Corps of Engineers to come up with an appropriate design that's going to be most feasible for all parties. And this includes the parking lot A as well as a mitigation plan. And so that is what we have.
Sir, do you have any questions, or did you, if you?
Well, I'm sort of stunned by how slow things are going, but, oh, my name is David Carlson, and I'm a longtime kiter and temporary resident in South Padre for about the last 20 years. And I did that little video overview that maybe some of you saw on the website, where I flew my drone out and laid down for the public, basically, our group of interested people, how the layout would go. So I've done a little bit of stuff here, and I've met with Ms. Boberka a couple of times, and I want to extend my sympathies to everyone involved, because I thought that this was just ludicrous how long it was taking to get these things done, until I see that Elon Musk is having a hard time getting permission from the FAA to launch a rocket, which is has much more impact on the economy of Southern Texas than this probably does. I'm glad that you're continuing, and Ms. Boberka is continuing to press ahead on this, because I think a lot of people in the kiteboarding community believe that nothing's happening. I think this was a very nice presentation, very well done, and as a person who's interested, I think, sort of my hats are off to you, and I hope you continue. Is there any issue with the amount of money that's being expended in these studies? Are you going to have enough money to actually build this thing when the time comes?
We have the funding in place. We're ready to go. We're shovel ready.
There's a lot of red tape with the Army Corps and Fish and Wildlife. Well, we haven't gotten to Fish and Wildlife yet. And as you've seen what's been going on with SpaceX and their issues, and then the Army Corps has withdrawn their permit application. I mean, there's a lot of, it's amazing the amount of circular conversation, and there's been a lot of time for several of our council members spent on this, and we are just as shocked as you are. And I can tell you that if someone said, "Hey, I want you to go develop something up on the north end of the island," I would tell you that I'm sorry, I'm retired, I'm out of it, I'm done, because it's an incredible amount of work that's been having to go into this for what you would think would be a conservation plan that protects a large portion of an area, and to have a preliminary approval way back when, and then everything kind of went backwards 2 years, 2.5 years, 3 years after the fact. It's just kind of shocking. but everybody is working very hard on it. And, we had a 2.5 hour meeting last week regarding it, and it was a very, intense meeting, and we're doing our best with what we can do to try to move this project forward.
Thank you.
A year ago, Mayor Mass, a year ago, we would have thought this was in the bag. And up comes the Corps and, the regulatory agencies. Who would have thought vehicular traffic and a parking lot would have held this thing up? There's been vehicular traffic on the flats shortly after Henry Ford built the first Model T. But all of a sudden, we get hit with this. And I know staff, sure enough, they've been working diligently. Christina, sleeps with this thing. And we'll get it done. Maybe not my lifetime, but we'll get it done.
We'll get it done in my lifetime, please.
But I can assure you, somebody that's been around here for 6 decades, who would have thought? I mean, just minor to us, but major to the bureaucrats.
The windsurfing club that was established, 20 or 30 years ago, has done a good job of providing access to many of us that are longtime members of the club, and I appreciate their efforts. They're trying to fill in the gap right now between when this gets built, and so I think they've done a wonderful job, but a lot of those guys are kind of getting older, and I just hope that someone from that group continues to provide that continuity between now and whenever the park gets built. So if you can support the existence of that organization as a stopgap until the park gets built, I think that would be good. I don't know how you would do that.
The city's been doing that. We've had Gibber and Leo and Karen. They've been involved every step of the way. Those are the people that Karen are talking about. So, we've identified who the leaders of that group are, and they've been involved. And if you send me an email to my city email address, I'll be happy to share some emails with the Corps of Engineers you can write your letter to and explain to them your concerns.
I contacted.
Pretty disgusted with the process because Christina's been working really hard on this, and she didn't submit once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4, but she's on her 5th one. And it's been an arduous, pride-swallowing siege at the watching the pace that the Corps has been working on this with, and it's almost like they want to kill the project.
Well,
and I can assure you, the property owners, they don't want a piecemealed small project. They want a world-class facility and something really nice down there we can be proud of. And that's important to them, and that's what we're going to build. But drop me an email.
I really appreciate Ms. Wilburka's presentation tonight. It really helped me, and a lot of people that are on the outside that are not involved don't really understand the effort that's going in and that there's actual progress and reviews being made. And so they think, well, nothing's happened. It's been years. So I appreciate the presentation, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, anybody else have any comments? All right, hearing none, we'll move to item number 5, which is approved consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve 5.1